Hello, everyone, and as always, welcome to Strategy Gaming Dojo, where we find, learn, and play one more turn of the great strategy games. Now, today we are going to continue on with our Let's Play of Gary Grigsby's War in the Pacific Admirals Edition. This is episode lucky number 19, and it is lucky because we've done it. We have moved through 4,659 line items on the spreadsheet to set up the initial Allied turn. That is something. Now, we did skip the Russian part. I say Russian. I've been making this War in the East video, and I'm trying not to say Russian because that offends some people. They want it to be called the Soviet Union. And I get that, it's a bad memory for a lot of people. And so it is the Soviet Union. But here in World War II, they were ostensibly our ally, and therefore we had some things to set up for the Soviet Union, but we're not going to. And the reason is because there is little to no chance that the Soviet Union will become involved in this war in the Pacific. I don't want them to. Um, and really, a good Japanese player or the AI definitely will not do anything to bring the Soviet Union into the war, which let's just go up and remind people if you haven't watched all the episodes or you didn't watch the episode where we talked about this, uh, Manchukuo up here, the Japanese have to keep a certain garrison amount here in Manchukuo to keep the Soviet Union out of the war. So anyway, gosh, I was being all joyous and celebratory, and now I'm up here in Manchukuo. Um, the point is, we have reached the end of the spreadsheet. Well, we did this turn after we go through all of the items that we set up this time and just discuss the interesting ones or different things that I found excuse me, different things that I found interesting in this part of the setup. So we will get into that in a second. I did want to announce that tomorrow night, so I guess that will be January 12th. That is a Tuesday, January 12th at 5 o'clock Pacific. So I guess that's 8 Eastern, 7 Central, 6 Mountain Time. I will go live on Twitch. There will probably be 5 or 10 minutes where just talk or chat to anybody that is interested. I've never done a Twitch live stream, but we are going to start doing, maybe like once a week, something exciting, whatever game we're playing at the time. If there's a big move or there's something interesting that may happen, we are going to maybe go over to Twitch. Now, if you just watch these on YouTube and all you want to do is watch them on YouTube, that's fine. Of course, I'll always post the recordings of that over here on YouTube with the same numbering, and you'll never tell the difference other than you'll say, hey, who's that mug down there in the bottom left hand of the screen? That will be my face. But other than that, you won't be able to tell a difference. But for anybody that's interested, and again, you're not going to miss anything if you're not interested. I am going to start doing some Twitch streams here and there. Some people like them, some people want them. Um, yeah, could be fun. We'll see how we'll see how it goes. Let's see, if I can do a basic tutorial on how to do Twitch, which is more complicated than this game potentially. Um, anyway, on to Sarawak, which is our first destination to date. Now, this time around the map, we are going to be jumping around quite a bit. It's one of these where there's no big setup item. There's a bunch of smaller setup items. Now, we do Sumatra this time, but honestly, in Sumatra, there wasn't a whole lot to do. We're not playing what is commonly referred to as Fortress Palembang. And Fortress Palembang is when you take all of these units, like up here at Sabang, you have quite a few units and spread throughout the country here, and you bring them all here to Palembang and you turtle down here. And you essentially, because of the swamp land and how hard it is to get in here, you make it very, very difficult for the Japanese to take Palembang, which is a good thing, right? Palembang is very important. It kicks out a lot a lot of oil and fuel. And so, you know, look, if you're playing another human and you haven't agreed on any game rules, or at least that's not a game rule that you have agreed upon, then that might be what you want to do. As the allied player, it is certainly to your benefit to head everything in here to Palembang that you can and to hold on to it. Because if you can hold on to that, ultimately you really gain the upper hand over here in the Dutch East Indies, but it's not really just that. It's more that all of this fuel, all of this refinery power that's down here, all of the oil down here, you're keeping that from the Japanese to power the rest of their war machine. Uh, the Japanese player really needs to get Palembang, Balikpapan, and Tarakan to fuel all of those units it's got across the board. And so if you can hold Palembang, it's just a huge advantage to you as the ally player. We're not going to do that. It is somewhat frowned upon in the community to do that. It's not historical. The Dutch, kept these outposts here. You can look at it this way, hey, we're going to slow the Japanese advance down. Of course, if you just pull everything down here, they're going to get to Palembang quicker. Question how much quicker, because these are not strong units. There aren't a ton of them. So anyway, I just thought I would bring that up and we'll talk more about it when we get over to Sumatra. But as I said, we're over here at Sarawak. And at Sarawak, um, excuse me, I had a sunflower seed that went straight down my throat as I started to record this. Uh, Over here, Brunei. Now, the only thing I knew about Brunei before was the Sultan of Brunei, who I think was the richest man in the world at one point. I'm sure he's passed. This was some time ago. It may have even been right, at the start of World War II. But the Sultan of Brunei, I just remember that name. I had no idea where it was until I started playing this game, because this has made me where I could be a tour guide of the Dutch East Indies, I believe. But anyway, at Brunei, we're just going to turn off repair. There is this base force unit, and when I say repair, it's just this 10 oil that's up here in Brunei, maybe why the Sultan was so rich. The base force, we're going to leave that here. There's, as I always say, I feel like I say this every episode, there's this push and the pull of what do you try to get out? What do you leave behind? What's historical? How historical do you want to be? Do you want to lose transports? I mean, when it comes down to this, it's just not smart really to send a transport up here and try to get a base force. The Japanese are going to be all over you from turn one. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. They will land at either Miri or Brunei very quickly, and we're coming over here to Miri with this little I called it fuel Kuching, um, and what I'm doing is going over to Miri. We're remaining on station. We're going to pull fuel. It's not going to be a bunch, right? I mean, this is 1750, so you're talking what, 875 once we get our half penalty, and for transporting liquid in the AKL, and then we're going to go back to Miri. Once we do that, or I'm sorry, we're going to go to Miri, go back to Kuching. Once we do that, we're probably going to have to get that out of here because when I say they come thick and they come fast, they really do. And so it's kind of all along this coast. Kuching, Miri, Brunei, Jesselton. What is this? It's Beaufort. There's nothing here. Kudat, there's nothing there. It's really, you've got Jesselton here. You've got these planes that are going to be running kind of a general naval search. Is that right? Hold on. I want to go look that up just to make sure that's correct. Um, I hate to make you sit here and wait. I can say something really witty and interesting, or actually maybe not. Um, but I want to make sure I didn't just forget the Jesselton or if this is a difference between, sorry, I'm pulling up my spreadsheet here really quickly. Um, okay, there's Jesselton. This may be a difference. Yeah, this is a difference. Oh, did we transfer? I think that's what we did. Okay, sorry. I was just confused how this got here because I don't remember setting this up last time. We transferred these guys out, but I'm gonna have to go look and make sure that we didn't have coordinates here for this is the 205 squadron. I'll go back. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just write that down and make a note. It seems to me that we would, instead of running general search, we would want to run a search, here to the north with these. As a matter of fact, just in case I forget, why don't we just do that really quickly? How many planes we have? We've got three. It's not the best thing I've ever heard. 6,000. I bet you we're going to kick that range back. Yeah, that's too far. So, what's our ranges here? Let's go back to 16. Okay, altitude 6,000. Let's make that 8,000. 330 to 10. Do we want to go a little bit more to, let's go 330 to 20. Oh gosh, why in the world that didn't look right? That didn't look like it reset the range. Let's go down even more. I don't want it going over land at all. Exit. Let's see what. There we go. Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, now you really get to see how I do it, folks. Yeah, we'll put it one over. May give us a little bit of visibility into what's going on here. Uh, you know, it's fine. That's one. So we got one going in the morning, one in the afternoon. Okay. That's it. We've got three. Well, we're only running, I get it. Well, we're only running 50 search here. And so it's, essentially 1.5 planes. Um, that's fine. This is good. Gosh, is it though? Let's click this over. I kind of want it to go more straight up and down. Ooh, I kind of like that. That gives us some visibility that we don't really have. Okay, well, I'm gonna go back and change that, or not change that necessarily. I'm gonna go back and check that squadron. I just want to make sure that that wasn't supposed to be just a search 50 random. It seems to me we would definitely want those guys going north, so I'm gonna go back and check that. Um, this is when I break in and say, I do all of these in one take generally. So I don't go, I know a lot of people on the YouTube that go back and they edit up their videos and their editing takes longer than the actual video itself. I don't know. I just think it's more authentic or it's just better or maybe more enjoyable if I let you see, hey, you know what? Sometimes I forget to set up things or I don't have them correct and I have to fix them. Just because I've played the game a lot and I've taught tutorials on it. Believe me, nobody can keep track of everything perfectly on here. So I never go back and edit them out of some kind of pride thing. Hey, if I forgot to do that one, that's fine. I will figure it out. And, as turns go on, that's how you'll play the game, especially starting out. You'll say, oh my gosh, I can't believe I forgot to set that up. But that's fine. That's just all part of learning the game. And no matter how many hours of this game you've played, that will happen. Um, let's see. So, Sarawak, that's fine. Jesselton, okay, we just talked about that. Kuching. Oh, we have those fighters from Singapore over here in Kuching. I didn't want to talk about that for a second, just because you can see up here we've got the section B and the section C. The section A is over there in Singapore, so we've got three in the section C. They're running 50 cap on an escort primary, escort primary 50 cap. It's another three here. So they're here at Kuching. Now they have got a few different things going on, right? Because we've got um, oh, That's right. Over here, just to point this out, at Singkawang, we've got these other fighters. It's four of these 339Ds. They are also running escort and cap. So we actually have, I mean, it's not a ton, but we've got some planes over here that are running some escort for us. And we've got some planes that are out doing search. So we've got three and three out here that are searching to the north. And as I said when we set these guys up, that they deserve incredible amount of combat pay because this is, whew, if they make it through a life. But we are running escort from a base right next door, and we're running cap over all of this. So we are setting up, a little bit of an air thing going on here, hoping to catch some Japanese transports maybe coming across here, a Japanese cargo uh, group, a task force coming across, that would be great. Um, the Japanese are going to have all sorts of things operating out here, and so having some of these planes that ultimately, in the grand scheme of things, if we lose three Dutch fighters, it's not the end of the world. If we lose three Dutch patrol aircraft out here, it's not the end of the world. So we're going to fly them out here, and who knows? We may get lucky, get something really tasty that comes across our naval search here. That would be a lot of fun. But we will be taking escort out. What's our range on the escort? Now, this goes back to some airfare, airfare. We're flying United. This goes back to some air war stuff, and that is, a plane does not have to be at the exact same base to run escort. The AI does all of this, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I know all of the lines of code or something. Obviously, I don't. I do know that it's more likely to run escort if it is at the same base than not, um, and also at the same altitude. But generally, in any examples I've seen of that, it's been of bombers, right? Bombers going out to bomb something. With patrol aircraft, I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I'm not exactly sure how the game resolves escorting patrol or if it even is going to run escort. That is something I'm going to look up because it's just something I don't know about the game. I was sitting here talking about escort, and the fact that we brought these down here on this whole spreadsheet leads me to believe that we are going to be running some escort with them, but I just can't believe their range is going to be enough to matter much. We're going out six. Hmm. These are the questions. I, I'll I just don't run escort with patrol aircraft like this often that are doing naval search. But I'm assuming that the game runs an escort with anything that goes out that doesn't have, isn't a fighter. Um, I mean, their range is 14. What do we got this thing going out 12? So the fighter would only go out like halfway anyway, right? Huh. Interesting questions. Things I want to know the answer to now. As I always say, I learned something from every one of these tutorials. Um, so that's Kuching. We're getting that fuel from Miri. We talked about that. Oh, we talked about some possible ship evacuations. I mean, as we went across the spreadsheet, it did say, hey, there's possible evacuations that you can do here. We'll see what happens. I don't think it's probably worth it unless we get one of those transports that's only worth like 8 points and we're not feeling a ton of heat here. We may try to run one across, but that's very, very unlikely. Okay, Society Islands are next, and that takes us to Tahiti, a place I would like to go, a place I know my wife would like to go. Um, but in this, I did not want to go there in World War II, although I don't believe Tahiti saw much action. It may see action in this game because I build Tahiti up, and I know that the spreadsheet doesn't really necessarily build Tahiti up that much. I know a lot of good allied players that do build Tahiti up because some people don't even bother with the crescent, the Iron Crescent I've been talking about. They run everything down here through Tahiti and Auckland on the idea that the Japanese just really logistically can't get down here. They can maybe sort of, subs. Uh, they could in a very limited fashion, but they're very quickly all the way down here on this part of the map. Logistically, it is just almost impossible for them to sustain any kind of, bombing of your shipping. And so a lot of people would use this as a big refuel stopover point on their way to Australia. And I'm going to kind of do a hybrid. I'm not going to turn it into Fortress Tahiti. By the same token, I am expanding everything. Now, the problem with that is we have no engineers out here. So well, I say none. I don't I don't know if that's true. Do we have none? Thought maybe in this unit we may have one. No, we have two aviation support. We have no engineers, no engineer vehicles. So we're really not going to be doing much of these things until we can get some engineers over here. But I do turn it on because if I just don't want to forget. And so we will get some engineers out here. We will also be sending a lot of cargo, supplies, and fuel this way. Now, you may notice on the spreadsheet, these two task forces were not part of the spreadsheet. I turned these into Cargo Tahiti and Fuel Tahiti. I put their destination at Auckland and their home port at Auckland, and I will just be sailing these French ships from Auckland to Tahiti back and forth. Once they get over here, I'll probably put them on a CS. Now, one problem with that is the endurance of these two for the supplies isn't enough to make it to Tahiti and back to Auckland. So we'll have to do that kind of awkward minimal refuel thing. But no biggie. It's close enough. It's not going to be eating a ton of fuel. A ton. I got to stop saying a ton, considering everything in this game is in tons. It's not going to eat up so much fuel that it's not worth it. Let's put it that way, okay? So we're going to be running these things back and forth, and more. And more. There's things already coming out of Auckland. I know to Tahiti. I think we have one task force at least. I'm not going to go look. We did that in the New Zealand setup, but I do know that we get some things coming out this way. And after the first turn, when we come back and start looking over everything, I'll come down here and check this and start thinking really about how we're going to get Tahiti built up and where those engineers are going to come from. So we'll have to find some engineers somewhere on the map. The Solomon Islands are after, there was nothing else to do in the Society Islands. Um, there's just not much other than Tahiti. Got a few other bases. They're of inconsequence. Let's put it that way. Next, let's go up to the Society Islands. And the Society Islands, I guess, are a little interesting to me because, oh gosh, hold on. We just did the Society Islands. We're going to the Solomon Islands. The Solomon Islands, they're interesting to me because they become so important historically once you get in later into the war. Obviously, everyone that has any interest in World War II in the Pacific has heard of Guadalcanal, has heard of the Solomons. It becomes a very important place for some pretty incredible battles in the Pacific front. But for our setup and for our early game here, nothing. I mean, there's just nothing to do. So, hey, there it is on the map. That's about all there is to say. It's over here by Port Moresby. Okay. The Japanese may try to push down here. What's the size of this? Well, it can go to a three and you know, 3-2 natural. Yeah, okay. What about Shortlands? Shortlands got going on. That's a 3 and a 4. It's a little better. I mean, that's not a terrible little base out here in the middle of nowhere. Okay, well, that we don't have anything out here to begin with, and I don't believe we may be sending. Nah, I don't believe we're sending anything here. So it is what it is. Sumatra. is next, and we kind of hit on this earlier, right? We are not doing Fortress Palembang, but Palembang will be incredibly important. The main thing we're going to be doing is pulling every bit of fuel and every bit of oil, but really fuel, out of Palembang that we can. Some of that could just come down to Batavia. Some of that will go all the way to Perth. Some of that will go to Darwin through this strait. Now, again, this strait is of utmost importance right here at Oosthaven, Batavia. This is Merak here at the end point, but Batavia and Oosthaven are the bigger bases here. Um, just very, very important. Of course, Palembang's important. I've stressed that many, many times. We're going to be trying to pull everything we can down to Oosthaven. That reminds me of something that I like to do that I don't believe that I saw in the spreadsheet, but we are going to be pulling fuel down here as much as we can. So we're gonna, stockpiling fuel. Um, I would like to request more. I wish I could. We're only requesting 3,000, but we're gonna try to pull all the oil we can to Oosthaven. But Palembang, meanwhile, we're sending tankers here from Australia. You may remember pretty much any tanker that we have over on this western side of the map, we're going to try to get into Palembang at least once, maybe twice, hopefully three times, and then get that fuel out. Okay, so let's look at Palembang and again why it's so important. It's got 20 resources. That's not nothing, but it's got 900 oil and 1020 refinery. Again, this is the second largest refinery in the game. I believe Los Angeles or San Francisco is the only one that's bigger. Now, of course, I'm going to look. This is, yeah, LA's 2,000 oil, 2,000. Oh, does it? Hold on. Is it not? Oh, there's the refinery. 2,500 refinery, 2,000 oil. Okay. Uh, so, that's just a massive amount. But Palembang, I think this is the second largest refinery down here at 1020. And so you can see why the Japanese are going to try to get their hands on this if they can. This would fuel a big portion of their ships over here on the western side of the map if they can get a hold of this intact. So as part of that, of course, we are turning we will be turning. We're not going to do it on turn one, but we will be turning repair off on these as the Japanese get within bombing range. So once they make their way down the Malay Peninsula here, or they've made their way over into this, tip of Borneo Sarawak, we will start turning the repair off. And so as they bomb Palembang, they will be hitting their own production eventually, right? Now, you may say, well, why not just turn it off on the first turn? I know some people will do that or have done that. Um, but really, you just never know. Okay, let's say the Japanese don't make this a priority, which would be rare, but hey, I mean, I've seen it happen. I've played players that did not come after Palembang. They had they came straight to Batavia, or maybe they came to Surabaya and worked on this corridor and tried to split the Allies a little bit. So they didn't put enough resources to come get Palembang. Um, why, why turn off the repair of this before you have to? If you don't think you're going to lose it, you might as well keep it up and keep it, fueling things. I will say, as the allied player, that is a difficult decision, right? Because you have enough fuel and oil coming from other places that, in some respects, it might not even be necessary. I mean, I think you could play the game with this completely turned off as the allied player and still have enough fuel if you're efficient with your task forces off the west coast of the US. So, anyway, just all things to think about. I just like to throw this stuff out there. This is the kind of things you think about when you play the game. Um, let's go through some of these places. Now, don't forget Billiton, which we did set up with Sumatra. It was lumped together with Sumatra. We're going to make this kind of floating air base out here so that float planes can come down here, they can get restocked. Um, so we've got things on the way here to Billiton. There on Sumatra, there's lots of building forts. That's the main thing we're doing. We've got these areas here like Langsa or Medan. Um, what's the name of this? Oh yeah, I was gonna say try to say this fast 20 times. Um, Tanjong Tanjong Blah. Okay. I didn't say it fast and I didn't say it 20 times, but we're going to be building forts all along here because the Japanese, of course, are going to be picking where they jump peninsulas here from Malaya to Sumatra. It's it's very tough terrain for the Japanese on the eastern side of Sumatra. It's all swamp down in here, and swamp gives you pretty much the biggest bonuses you can get from terrain in the game. And so, defending swamp is almost as good as it gets. Defending a large base in a swamp, awesome, right? And so they're going to want to jump over up here somewhere probably and start coming down Sumatra. And so we're leaving a lot of these speed bumps, right? Like Sabang. Are they even going to go get Sabang? Well, the problem, of course, then we'll run into is Sabang maybe running out of supply, and Sepang does have Assault 48, Assault 20, Assault 16. So you're talking 30, you're talking almost 90 in assault value. Not bad, right? Add this 9 in, and we've almost got up to 100. So yeah, we're sitting on 93. So, interesting things could happen. We could always send some transports down here if we got really adventurous, but probably not, unless we did one of these boink and then, got it in here under the cover of darkness, but probably not. But for now, we're leaving all of these forces sort of where they are. The only ones that we're moving are this one here, which was kind of out in the middle of nowhere, and that's going to Jambi right here. So this is Jambi. And then the base force at Jambi is going to Bankolen, which is over here on the western side. Um, and you kind of have these fallback areas, uh, Bankolen, Padang. So in Padang, there's some things going on. And as you noticed, we're going to be building up Siberut, Siberut, Siberut. We're going to be building that up. We'll see what happens out there, but we are going to at least put a base force out there. Padang, what were these? Let's go check on these. I've got base transfer. Yeah, we're just sending that to Batavia. Okay. Right. This is the fuel at the Siberut. We're loading this up and giving it a little fuel. I mean, it's not a lot of fuel, right? Transport. Oh, that's right. The Palotello. We're sending this over to Cape Town because, of course, this is a very nice ship. 17,000 endurance, 15 speed, 4,200 capacity on the transport is very nice. You can see troop capacity 1,700, cargo capacity 2,500. So that's a very nice transport ship. So we're going to get it the heck out of Dodge, get it over here to Cape Town up through the penalty box and have that bring some British troops over when it has a chance. And the northern part, we're keeping this stuff in place. We got a few things marching about, but not a lot. Padang and Bankolen on the western side. Hey, if we could hold those, great. It seems very unlikely. They will probably fall. Then we get up here to Palembang. Now, one of the interesting things about Palembang is one, I was going to mention this transport, the Kita. We'll do something with that shortly. There's really no reason to have it sit at Pal. You know what? I don't like it to be there because I know it's not very many. Well, wait a minute. I bet you the idea with that is to leave it around to see what's going on over here to make a fast little run if we can. All right, I'll leave it there for a turn, but you guys don't let me forget that that transport is there. I actually just want to turn it into a transport task force with no orders so that I definitely don't forget about it. We'll just, we'll call it transport question mark. There's not really, it's not obvious what this should go do. It's not the best ship in the world. I don't. What's the point value? Yeah, it's a two. Okay, well, heck. But it really doesn't have much. It's 300 troops, 600 cargo. So let's compare that to that's British. Let's see what we have here at Kuching. If we did want to get something out, we've got 400 and 48. So we're off a little bit, right? And we're off for the wrong thing. Meaning, if you don't have enough with a transport, you'd much rather not have enough to take the cargo because you can always put an AKL or just an AK with it to get the cargo, but you can't do that to get the troops. So anyway, we'll see what happens with that Kita. I just am not sure what I want to do with it yet. I think maybe we'll end up just sending it down here to Batavia to maybe do something. Not the best ship in the world, and it can't carry a whole lot, so we'll see. But the interesting thing I wanted to point out was this ship, the Pro Patria, and we have another ship coming over from here, I believe. Yes, they're both mine layers. And so the spreadsheet said this, and it's something maybe we haven't talked a whole lot about. Um, I know we've talked about it some, right? We've talked about those AMC ships that are essentially they're a mine tenders, but they keep your mines from degrading or at least degrading as fast. They upkeep mines. And so that's why at all of our big ports where we have defensive mines, we try to have one of those AMC ships because they are going to keep the degradation of those mines to a minimum. Um, and so they maintain them, and you're not constantly wasting mines that are you know, falling down to the bottom of the ocean or floating off or whatever degrades mines. Um, and so as part of that, this is kind of the flip side of that. We've got this mine layer that's coming down here. We've got a mine layer, whoops, let's go back to Palembang. We've got a mine layer here at Palembang that's not doing anything on the first turn. And they're going to just sit here and they're going to wait. And when the Japanese get close, kind of in this, Cole says within 12 hexes. Um, you know, it's one of those things, you'll know it when you see it. When the Japanese get close enough here, probably to Singapore or to Singkawang, then you're going to take those ships out and lay down as many mines as you possibly can in this, harbor, in this strait and harbor right here. And the reason you're doing it that way is we don't have anything to maintain those mines. And so over time, they're going to become completely ineffective and degrade to zero. And so we don't want to set them too fast. We don't want to set them up now because by the time the Japanese get down here, let's say in 2 or 3 weeks, maybe sooner, um, those mines aren't going to be nearly as effective. Half of them, maybe more. I'd have to look at the exact degradation level, but a bunch of them will have degraded to the point that they do you no good. And so, just that's something to keep in mind as you play the game. When you're thinking about laying mines, are you doing it at a place, and I'm talking defensive mines here, right? Obviously, you can't go and maintain mines that you set off the coast of a Japanese base. It doesn't quite work that way, right? You sail in the harbor and say, I wonder if my mines are still operational. that's going to end up with a ship at the bottom of the ocean. I'm talking defensive mines here, where you may potentially have one of our mine tenders, for lack of a better way of describing it, that maintain our mines. Do you have one there? If you don't have one there, where are the Japanese? How soon are the Japanese, do you can you estimate that they'll get there? And that will really let you know when you should probably set these mines down. So just something to think about there. I thought it was interesting here at Palembang. Again, lots of stuff here. We'll see what happens. Many times the main Japanese task force may come straight back over here. It's a good place for them. It is a dangerous place for them because we do have a lot of submarine activity here, but they can hit Singapore, they can hit Palembang, they start to pressure down here into, you know, they start making you get nervous, believe me. Then you got to start thinking about Batavia. Anyway, this is a place they can come. There are things you can do about it with the sub game, but early on, it's not a pleasant sight to see the Japanese send their main task force right here. I think that's most of this up here. The last thing to talk about on Sumatra is Oosthaven. I kind of already mentioned it, right? We do have this tanker, the Augustina, that we're sending up to Palembang, set home port to Palembang. Once it gets up there and we see it, let's see, we've got 8,800 endurance on this. Um, we'll see where we take it. Regardless of where we decide we're going to take it, whether that be Colombo, whether that be down to Perth, whether that just be around the corner to to Jilajap, maybe even just to Batavia. Regardless, we're going to be coming back down towards this strait. Now, we may stop at Batavia, but most likely we'll be coming out here. And again, always, if you're going in and out of Palembang, always set it to direct so it goes up this strait. You're just a lot more exposed out here if you go out here and do a wide turn around the corner. So, to the extent a ship can, send it straight up this way. Um, the Beatrice, yeah, we're just sending this over to Batavia. And oh, transport Brits. I just decided to call this, transport the Brits. This is going to go up to Singapore, the Hong Peng. I thought about this for a bit. I just, I guess I'm risk averse when I admiral in my admiral ship, but you just have so few transports at the start and you need them for so many things that sending these on a potential suicide mission or sending them up for things that you're going to have to spend political points to buy out kind of sometimes rubs me the wrong way. Now, we are going to do this. It's got a troop capacity of 500, cargo capacity of 1100. It's only worth, I say only 8 points. So, you know, if it does get blown out of the water, it's not the end of the world. But the idea is you would get up here in some of these British units, it's only one transport ship, so one at a time. I believe, didn't we have some AA up here? We had something that, well, Mersing. Okay. Hmm. No, these are all Singapore. I just couldn't remember if we set anything with a different objective. That we're basically saying, hey, we are going to get this out of here. Now, looking at the command, it looks like this artillery unit we could buy out of the Malayan army. How much is that? Oh, sheesh, 135. They don't make it the most attractive thing in the world to get these units out. Again, a lot of these are locked. You do have, what is the 3rd Indian Corps? 3rd Indian Corps, I believe, can come off Malaya. Um, this is interesting. This is a New Zealand engineer unit that you can buy out. Oh, it's only 9 points too. Well, what is this made of? What do you even have here? Oh, hey, not terrible. This may be something we take out with that. That's a nice little unit. You can run this down. You could take it to some place that you don't have enough engineers, like, you could obviously take it to Darwin, but maybe even like Morocco, Kopang, something like that. So anyway, we'll get to that as we play the game. But that's interesting. We're going to go ahead and send that transport up there. I think with Oosthaven, you just have this base force. We do have some things headed this way, and we're building fortifications, not building anything else. I I think on the theory that this may fall eventually. And also you have Batavia right here. So if it doesn't fall, you can bring all of your shipping into Batavia. It doesn't help you, you can't jump across here with fuel and supply. You'd have to take a little ship back and forth or something. But that's the least of your worries in Sumatra. You're going to have plenty of fuel if you're holding Sumatra. So anyway, um, let's see, Padang, we talked about that. Transport, yeah. Tankers, light cruise. Oh, that's right. Well, we talked about this. I wanted to tell you something in Palembang, with the tankers. No, here with these tankers. So these tankers are going over to Batavia. We're filling them up with fuel and we're just sending them to Batavia. So we're taking all of this and we're essentially island hopping with it. We're filling up here, going to Batavia, dropping it off here, and it's going to flow down Java. Okay, that's a lot of fuel. But what I did was Cole had these light cruisers heading over here, I think to maybe Kuching. Now, granted, they're not the best ships in the world, but they do have a 23 victory value. I don't know. If you're trying to win the game by victory points, just throwing away 46 of these, I don't want to do that. They don't have a ton of AA, but they have some. And so I'm putting them with these tankers. It gives these tankers a little AA, and that's not a big deal the first run they make, but as they come back and go for a second or a third time, that may come be helpful. Now, hopefully, we'll be all on top of that and we'll get these out. If it's the second time up and they come back to Palembang and the Japanese are, you know, here, let's say generally speaking, we will take them out and run them straight down to Perth, or at least on the backside of these islands. You have to be careful with Tagilajap because, just because there's a land here doesn't mean that the Japanese planes can't get over the top of it, but we may run those tankers down here on the backside of the island, maybe to Darwin. That could be a decent place for it. But I did put, instead of sending them over on top of Sarawak. I am taking them out with these tankers just to give them a little protection. Just something a little different than I'm doing. But I wrote that in my notes and I almost forgot. We talked about the mine layers. Okay. Um, Really for Sumatra, I think that kind of covers it. There's a lot that's going to happen at Sumatra. It's going to be a real focal point of what we're going to see over the coming years. But on the initial setup, we've got these tankers. It's kind of interesting. We've got a troop transport coming up here. We've got some mine layers that are waiting to lay some mines. But there you go. The next thing is Tasmania as we go down here to Tasmania. Now, I did not know where Tasmania was before I started playing this game. I mean, I knew of the Tasmanian Devil, but I've never been to Australia. Would love to go, of course, but I did not realize Tasmania was an island to the south of the continent. And as you can see, it was obviously part of the continent at some point and broke off. Um, but I'm sure it is beautiful down here, if I had to imagine. But what is going on during World War II in Tasmania? Tasmania has Burnie, Hobart, and Launceston. Why can't I say that? Launceston. I say that all the time. I don't know why I couldn't say it today. Launceston. Okay. Um, Bernie has some ASW. Now, don't get these too confused. Sometimes I kind of forget, Bernie and Launceston are right here next to each other. Just keep them straight. Um, we've got this, we've got this minesweeper here out the Lithgow. We're having this meet the continuous supply task force that we just have running from Melbourne down to Burnie and back and forth, back and forth. We're going to have this minesweeper go out, meet that, merge with it, become part of it. Um, Other than that, not a whole lot to say about Bernie. We're just gonna, build something. Oh, well, I guess one thing to say is this base force, this Queenstown RAAF that's in Queenstown, is going to march to Bernie. We're gonna pick it up and we're gonna go put it on Lord Howe Island. And so you probably noticed in the setup, kind of the most important or interesting thing about Tasmania is we're taking two of the base forces off of Tasmania and we're putting them on Lord Howe and on Norfolk Island. The other one, I believe, is at Launceston. Is that right? Yep, Norfolk Island. And so we have loaded it onto this troop transport, the Taruna, and the troops Norfolk is headed out. It is going to go to Norfolk Island, drop off that base unit, and so, you know, arguably more important to have them out here rather than Tasmania. If the if the Japanese have made it all the way around here and are taking over Tasmania, you've got much bigger problems to worry about than whether we move these base forces out here. Uh, so we're going to put them out here where they may actually do some good. You can start to build here a little bit. There's going to be a lot of Japanese sub activity out here, and so that's something we can use these, little islands, little atolls to start to pressure that a little bit. So we're going to bring those base forces out here. Hobart actually has, some assault strength 13, 3, and 25. This is a decent unit, 12th Australian Brigade. They're not moving. They're just going to hang out down here at Hobart. Okay. Um, let's look at this 25 unit here. It's under Australia Command, so you can buy it out, but it's like 126 for a 25 unit. You know, if you've got a lot of political points to play with, that's the kind of unit you would look at and say, okay, I'll buy that out and go put it in Port Moresby, let's say. Um, because 25 is not nothing up at Port Moresby. It can help, and there should be no reason that Hobart comes under attack or enough of an attack to where you need a 25 assault strength unit, given that you do have other things on the island that could, come here anyway. But anyway, just something to think about in the future. We talked about that. We talked about Bernie, and we talked about Queenston. Okay. The last and very last of our setup things that I wanted to talk about was Kopang. Kopang has a level bomber squadron for right now, four. It's the Hudsons. Um, they're training. They're training on some naval search. We have a little bit of time before Kopang comes into the fore. Now, there is assault strength 16, 10, and a base force out here. So we've got a little bit of a build here. Now, have you ever played a game where you have such fond memories of something that happened, at a specific hex or a specific town or something that you just always have warm feelings about it? Well, in this game, that town or that base is Koapang for me. I've had some wonderful things happen in and around Koapang in previous games, and so I always have a warm spot in my heart. So it's a great place to end the setup phase. Other than the level bombers, we're going to be bringing other stuff down here to Kopang. It is, the daisy chain to Darwin. You've kind of got this uh, Darwin to Kopang. We're going to have to build up something, whether it be Bima, or what do we have? Mataram. I think we are. I'll just have to go back and look. I can't remember if we're bringing. We are bringing something to Mataram, I'm sure. Okay. Danpasar. Danpasar, but it's almost a little too far away. We're gonna just, have to build this daisy chain, kind of like we do out in the Pacific Islands, up the Dutch East Indies to Surabaya and Batavia, where the real action happens, and there are two nodes of stiff resistance. But anyway, thank you so much for joining me as always. Oh, hold the phone. Do not go away yet. We have one more thing that was covered on the spreadsheet. So you may see here, I've hit the intelligence report. Let's go down to the industry troops resource pool. Okay. Now, one thing Cole talks about with this is the stockpiling of devices. So if you go down through this pool, this is your pool as the allied player of every single quote unquote device in the game. And what do we mean by device? Well, let's just go to this base force. These are devices, right? An 80 millimeter anti-aircraft gun is a device. Those are devices. Well, you can go and look at your pool of all of those devices over here in Industry Troops Resource Pool. Great. Now, what Cole recommends is this. He recommends, you see this over here, stockpiled, and you can see these are, you can change these, right? You can change that to yes, from no to yes. So what is all? So let's just take this one. BA 10M armored car in pool used so far last turn. Produced this month. Build rate that's 6 a month from 137 to 142. Obviously the year listed first, the month listed second. We are in 41/12, right? Um, let's just do something a little more interesting and select this to show us maybe something we have in the pool. Do we have anything? Yeah, we got some things in the pool. We've got we got the Mike 2 mines. We've got 300 of those in the pool. A lot of mines up here. You also have, these are those Filipino rifle squads. You've got 120 of those. Now, that's not 120 men. That's 120 squads. And so when you look at one of those Filipino units, it will say rifle squads. Those are considered quote unquote devices, elements, if you will, in the game that make up, they're put into a container that we call a regiment or a battalion or whatever. And those elements or devices fill that up until you've filled it out based on a table of organization and equipment. Again, let's not get too far afield here. But as you see, these are all in the pool right now. Well, what this does is it allows you, the game naturally, as things are built here, you see how many are built each, and that, it's an abstraction, right? The Filipino Rifle Squad building, it's not built at 60. There's 60 of them produced, or they come together, they're formed every month. And so you see the build rate. Well, what happens to these? Well, they get distributed out based on whether we've said a unit should take reinforcements. Okay? Um, so for a lot of units, we've said no, right? We've gone through, and there have been quite a few base forces where we did say yes, but the vast majority of units in the game, we've said no to reinforcements. Excuse me, for now. But we are going to be turning some of those on, like these PA rifle squads. You know, but there are 120 of them. Those go pretty fast. If one, uh, well, let's just go look at one. While we're here, we might as well. Let's see if we have some in this unit. We do. PA Rifle Squad, okay? Uh, so 24 damage, 30. uh, here would be ideal, or we have 30, I'm sorry, we have 30 that are good. Um, and you can see they are in the pool. We have some in the pool. So if we turn on replacements, it will start trying to fill this up. And let's look at the unit table of organization and equipment. The ideal setting for this, or what the game would try to fill it up to, is 81. These rifle squads, the ideal setup for this unit is for it to have 81. Well, right now we have 24 that are damaged or at least not ready, let's put it that way, and we have 30 that are ready, so we have 54. It's going to want another, what, 27 of these, and this is telling you that we have them in the pool and we could draw them to this unit if we put replacements on. Okay? Let's go back to where we were. Industry, troops, resources. This is saying we do not want to stockpile. So go ahead and fill up any units that are requesting reinforcements with anything that we make. It took me off the pool thing, but you get the idea. Um, right now we're saying no. What Cole says to do, and I think this is actually a very good idea, is to say yes. And you can do that instead of going through and doing every one of these manually. He says stockpile devices on the list. Yes. And what is this going to do? That shuts off all your reinforcement. Okay? Because now everything you're producing, you're stockpiling. And why does he do this? Because on the first turn of the game, those 120 Filipino rifle units will be completely wiped. They will be pulled. As you just saw, a lot of these units out here are already way under strength. And with the Filipino rifle units, it might not be as important because eventually they're going to be captured or overrun anyway. And so kind of where they end up I'm not going to say it doesn't matter. You'd probably rather have them in Manila or Clark Field or Bataan than down here, wherever we looked. Uh, but it's not as big a deal. Where does it become a big deal? Well, for that, I am going to pull this. Oh, my goodness. There we go. The mines. The mines will get ripped out of this pool right away if you don't set all of these to yes. So the mines are very important. And this just gives you more control, right? You're stockpiling them now, but as things start to happen, this is the nitty gritty down here that you can get into in this game. Let's look at this unit, 45th, 41st Philippine Army Infantry Division. It's got uh, the rifle squads, 40 not ready, 120 are ready. What's the ideal is 243 when we look at the template for this unit. So, we're running about 60, no, not even 80, right? We're running 80 short or so of these rifle squads. So it's going to pull immediately. Well, let's say that, the Japanese are on the way and we want to beef that unit up. We can always go down here, and say for Filipino Army rifle squads? No, we don't want to stockpile those. And they will start to get released. You could not only control it that way, you could say no, and then we could go down to our unit here and say replacements on. And that's going to pull it to this first, okay? Because every other Filipino Army unit has replacements off. We're going to put replacements on, and then all of a sudden it will draw it here, and we're no longer stockpiling it. Okay? Does that make sense? If it doesn't, leave me a message, or we can talk about it, however you want. But I think that should make sense. So let's go down here and see what else he says to do. He says to turn all of these to yes. Now I need to go back and change our Filipino um, all to yes. But then he says sort the from and until column here, and anything after, what does he say, 842, I think? 842. So this is from over here. Don't worry about the till. Don't worry about this second number. We're just looking at the from, and I clicked on from, and we're sorting it from earliest to latest. You can get down here to 1945 if you go all the way to the end, because this is showing us everything we're going to produce, even in the future. Okay, so he says everything from 842 from this point on, just go down and turn all of these to no. And you say, why would I do that? Well, these are out in the future. We'll make this determination when we get there. Um, but right now, we're just worried about what's going to happen up until July of 42, and then we'll see. Okay. And so we've just taken this 6 or 7 months of time and said, for now, we're saying we're going to stockpile all these things. Now, we're not necessarily going to stockpile them. Um, but don't forget this, because if you do have units out here that you start to turn on for getting replacements, but you're stockpiling back here at the what I would call the higher supply level, you're not going to be getting what you want. So you got to come back. But anyway, I'm going to go back and click all of these no from 842 on. But I'm going to do that and not make you watch. How about that? So don't forget, tomorrow night I'm going to actually put a little recording on the channel that has the Twitch symbol, just to remind people or have you go over there, and if you want to subscribe, I don't even know if you have to subscribe to watch me on Twitch. You can probably just watch it. It's at Strategy Gaming Dojo. I have the link up on my main YouTube channel page up to the bottom right. It's a little bitty Twitch thing. It's right by the Twitter thing. Just click on that. It takes you right to the Twitch page. But we're going to try to do that tomorrow night, January 12th. It is a Tuesday at 5 o'clock Pacific. So hopefully you can join us. If not, it'll be on YouTube. You can check it out there. As always, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Had a blast with this setup. The next time I see you, we'll be, watching what the Japanese have destroyed of ours. And then after that, I think what I'll do is go through at first from, one, two, and or for the first 5 or 10 turns, go from the west to the east in like 3 episodes, uh, hopefully each of like 30 to 45 minutes, talking about what happened in each section of the map, from west to east in 3 different sections. Um, that's my plan anyway. I don't know. We can chat about it if you're around tomorrow night when we do that live stream. How people would like to see as each turn unfolds, how that's done. But anyway, I guess I've rambled on long enough. I had a great time with the setup. Hope you learned a lot. Let's start playing the game. I'm excited about it. Till next time, Strategy Gaming Dojo. I'll talk to you.